Wow, can you believe it's been almost a year since I launched Indie Corner? Back then I was listing off 120 plus upcoming Wii U indie titles, at least that were supposed to come out. In hindsight, we didn't see that many games. There was actually only 79 indie games released on the Wii U in 2014. That doesn't include other regions because I'm not able to count how many indie games are in Europe, Australia, Japan, and those markets. Still, when you think about it, that's a lot of games to play through. So which one should you pick? Well, here's a list of my highlights from 2014, which were either great games overall, introduced some interesting mechanics, or just got some great discussions going on in the Nintendo community. Let's get the most obvious title out of the way first. Shovel Knight was a widely acclaimed success. It won plenty of awards and helped propel the indie scene into mainstream attention. In case you've been living under a rock throughout 2014, it's a throwback 2D platformer which combines elements from classics such as Mega Man and DuckTales, while adding modern gaming elements to it. Gone are the limited lives, replaced instead with the consequence of losing your loot. Checkpoints are found in abundance, and even parallax scrolling is added in, something the original NES did not do. So enough about that game already. There was one more 2D platformer which grabbed attention last year, and that was the return of Shantae in Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. The game was released for both 3DS and Wii U, and saw the return of our half-genie hero along with a cast of familiar characters from the series. The game was well received by critics for its beautiful art style, fun storyline, and fluid mechanics. You'll find yourself casting off from island to island in search of pirate artifacts which will help you defeat an ancient evil and give you some new abilities to boot. And let's not kid ourselves here, the fan service was abundant and it's just another reason to add this game to my 2014 highlights. Now, one of the great things about the eShop is you can find a great game at just about any price range. One of the better known developers who practically owns the lower price range bracket is RC Maniacs, best known for Block Drop U and Spiky Walls. RC Maniacs was busy cranking out games throughout 2014, but his first game surprised me with how fun and addictive it was to play. Block Drop U is a simple puzzle game that will last you maybe 30 to 60 minutes in total. The goal of the game is to remove blocks and get the red square to land safely on any platform. It's not always as easy as it seems, and new mechanics are added in to keep the game fresh. By the end of the year, RC Maniacs would team up with Vision to release a sequel called Block Drop U X Twisted Fusion, bringing a lot more content and giving the graphics a complete overhaul. Additionally, the developer ruffled some feathers mid-year with his release of Spiky Walls, a game obviously designed to capitalize on the Flappy Bird craze. Love it or hate it, it was a game that brought a lot of attention to itself, and because of that, makes my list of 2014 highlights. Now, as I said before, not all games on my 2014 highlight list will knock your socks off. These next two titles actually raised a lot of negative attention to themselves, but still managed to grab headlines around the Nintendo community. The Letter by Treefall Studios was arguably the first terrible game released on the eShop and had critics blasting Nintendo for not having high enough standards in the eShop. The game was released with very little content or polish, as the developer claimed to not have the resources he required to finish the game. While many of the issues were patched at a later date, the original game was hard to enjoy. The game was a first-person horror game that had you wandering 3 different environments in search of different items. The game was boring to play and not even close to being scary. Following this debacle, Ninja Pig Studios was quick to release a game that was intentionally bad, designed to look terrible and give players a tough time playing the game. Meme Run came out at the end of the year, further inflaming anyone who had issues with Nintendo's eShop standards. The game was a simple endless runner filled with memes and headache-inducing screams and screen shaking. While the game scored terribly, we can't deny the addicting charm the game lends itself to. Alright, we've spent enough time looking at the worst of 2014, so now let's look at some truly special experiences, starting with Tengami. At first glance, it's easy to see that Tengami is a game like no other. In fact, it's a journey, a tranquil adventure. The game is designed like a Japanese paper pop-up book, and the player explores the world within this book by interacting with it just like you would a real one. Puzzles are thrown in to challenge you, but none are very hard to stump you for long. The whole experience is underlined with a wonderful relaxing soundtrack and beautiful sound effects, such as a trickling waterfall or a cool breeze. Similarly, Color Zen is another title which hits this tone and offers an experience that you can lay back in bed and relax with. Color Zen is a simple game where you must eliminate all the colors on the screen. Every time you touch a colored object, the color expands, engulfing the screen and eliminating any other object with that color. It's a simple concept that can have a surprising amount of depth. If you're looking for an interesting Zen-like experience while giving your mind a bit of exercise, do check out Color Zen. The puzzle genre is very popular in video games, and I would argue even more so for Nintendo indie games. Many of the best reviewed eShop games were puzzle games, and one developer who actually built their reputation on these successes was Curve Digital. It seemed like whatever game had that name on it was guaranteed a great score by critics. Throughout 2014, they were responsible for releasing The Swapper, Stealthing 2, and Lone Survivor, all very good titles. Stealthing 2 and The Swapper were both fantastic puzzle games. In The Swapper, players would get access to a gun, much like in the Portal series, that would shoot beams of lights that would create clones of yourself. You'd explore a decrepit space station and solve various puzzles using this unique gaming mechanic. The puzzles get harder when your light beam starts to be limited in where they can be shined. Stealthing 2, on the other hand, is more of a puzzle platformer where you play as a clone trying to escape a facility. Some clones will help you out, but a lot of the game revolves around your abilities to dodge, outsmart, and outmaneuver various traps within the facility. Lastly, Lone Survivor offered a horror experience in a 2D world. The game was very well received for its unique atmosphere. The main gameplay focuses on scavenging for supplies in a post-apocalyptic world and finding new pathways throughout an apartment. The twist is you're slowly losing your mind throughout the game, so it becomes hard to differentiate between what is real and what is fake. Curve Digital wasn't the only developer who made a name for themselves in 2014. There were many, but one of my personal favorites was Fuzzy Wuzzy Games with their debut title, Armillo. Between Sean and I, we've already praised this game multiple times, so to avoid sounding too repetitive, I'll be brief. Armillo has you playing a rolling armadillo as he returns home to find it invaded and his friends captured. You traverse the galaxy hunting down the bad guys and unlocking goodies along the way. The gameplay is fast and smooth, and this should have been the direction Sega took Sonic in. Another big title was Teslagrad by Rain Games. Another 2D puzzle platformer, however this game introduces the unique game mechanic of electromagnetism. Right near the start, you acquire your first electromagnetic power, allowing you to punch items and ionize them positively or negatively. This lets you attract or repel objects from one another. As you progress through the story, you'll gain more powers that play on electromagnetics, making this game a unique addition to the Wii U indie library. Following up was another big success by Drinkbox Studios with their re-release of Guacamelee. Playing as a semi-dead luchador, you cross the lands of life and death, trying to save the president's daughter, all while gaining new abilities along the way. The game is an excellent Metroidvania with a dimension jumping mechanic that blends well with its deeper combat system. Chaining combos and beating up a group of undead just felt natural and great in Guacamelee. Throw in Drinkbox's funny humor on top of it all, and Guacamelee easily earns a spot on any indie highlight or top lists. Not to be forgotten, there was also Image and Form and their game SteamWorld Dig. The first thing I thought of this game was that it blended Minecraft with Mega Man X, which I'm sure you can imagine should make a great combo. The majority of the game is spent digging and collecting gems. The more gems you collect, the more upgrades you purchase, and the deeper you can dig. The game lets you explore the underground however you like, so there is a great sense of exploration. Plus, the wall kicks, running, and maneuvering just has a hint of Mega Man X feel to it, which makes it all that much better. The next one on my list is another personal favorite of mine, and again, it introduces something quite different. Kickbeat manages to match up a rhythm game with a beat-em-up into an awesome kick-ass experience. How much you like the track list will be the main measure of how much you like the game, as there's no option to download extra tracks or toss in your own. For me, there were a few tracks from Electronic Superjoy, another one of my personal favorite indie games, so loving this game was quite easy. The visuals are great and the controls easy to approach. Nailing combos to last resort and seeing enemies fly is just incredibly satisfying. And finally, our last few titles were games that flew a bit under the radar last year. Ballpoint Universe promised a shoot-'em-up experience along with some platforming. The game was received to lukewarm reviews, however it's on my highlight list for its unique art style. The entire game's art assets were done by sketching on paper using a ballpoint pen. This direction made the game stand out on looks alone. The next game, Get Close, was completely the opposite. While not that impressive on visuals, it offered a unique way of controlling the game. Each player grabs hold of one half of the controller, with each analog stick serving as the controller for that player's character on screen. Each player controls a creature and fights to collect points, get a higher score, or just frustrate their friends by continuously killing them. And that's my 2014 highlight list for indie games on the Wii U. Now there's a lot of games I didn't mention which obviously do belong on the list. There's just so many great games to choose from, but I had to keep the list short. My choices might differ from yours, but I do want to know, what were your 2014 highlights on the Wii U? Please let me know in the comments below. Was it an interesting story, an interesting game mechanic, the fun it offered, or just the experience? Let me know that too. I'll see you guys again, and until next time, keep on playing indie.